NFL Week 11 is here, and there are a ton of really, really important matchups. Plus, it's a Friday, which means we're making picks against the spread. Cole Thompson joins the Jake Asman Football Show. Ladies and gentlemen, the show starts right now.
Oh, yeah. It's time for the Jake Asman Football Show. Brought to you by BetUS. Expert betting odds and fantasy stats. So let's get into some NFL football. Brought to you by our friends at BetUS. So get your questions ready. Here's your host, Jake Asman.
Yes, indeed. Happy Football Friday, everybody. Thanks for spending part of your day with us here on the Jake Asman Football Show. If you're new, we talk football multiple times a week. If you've been here, thanks for supporting. Please click that like button. And, of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and help us continue to grow. As the big voice guy said, we're presented by BetUS. Any of the games you hear us discussing on the show, you can place a bet over at BetUS. Use them as your sports book. If you're a new customer, take advantage of a 150% sign-up bonus. If you've already deposited before, we'll check out a 125% second and third deposit. For those of you watching the Tyson-Paul fight tonight, you can actually wager on that over at BetUS. So check that out for the NFL, college football, basketball, hockey, you name it, they have it over at BetUS. Joining us right now in his weekly spot on the show is longtime football analyst, football reporter down in Houston, Texas, the great Cole Thompson. Hello, Cole.
I got a bone to pick with you. I have a massive bone to pick with you, actually. And how dare you lie to this audience? You should be ashamed of yourself, Jake Asman.
Yes.
No, you have no idea what I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
How dare you openly say to these fine people that tune in every single week that the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the NFL? They are not even close to being the best team in the NFL. A team last week went down to Houston, Texas against a top 5 defense. And more importantly, had a performance to forget. 5 interceptions, and yet still found a way to win, improved to 8-1. The Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFL because of when they still find a way to fumble the bag, they find a way to capitalize. And I'm telling you what, the Chiefs, lucky every single week, Jake Asman. They find a way to just survive, just like Detroit. But you tell me right now, which one would you take in a neutral site field? You would hammer the Detroit Lions.
I don't know. Look, I get your point, and I even said it. I'm glad. First off, thanks for watching the show earlier this week. Appreciate that. Second off, I test-wise, yes, the Lions have looked better. But Kansas City's undefeated. They just find ways to win. They've won the last 2 Super Bowls. They've won 3 of the last 5.
I wonder what Roger Goodell is getting paid by Kansas City to get that 3-peat for Patrick Mahomes.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt until someone knocks them off. Now, I do think Buffalo has a good chance to beat them because they had success against them in the regular season. But it's really going to be judged by what happens in the playoffs. And this is a team, until someone beats them, they're still the 2-time defending champs. They got the coach. They got the quarterback. I'm still riding with the Chiefs.
Okay, do me a favor. Just humor me. What if Kansas City wins this weekend? They win. They win out.
Well, then they got a legit path to go undefeated if you really look at their schedule.
And then Carolina gets the win next week. And they just pull off the most funniest thing that you have ever seen. Would you not
Carolina hands in their first loss?
Would you drop them all the way down to like number 4 or number 5? Because at that point, that'd be the most embarrassing loss there. 100% it would.
I mean, look, if that were to happen, we'll talk about it next week or 2 weeks, I guess.
I genuinely am kind of hoping for the Bills to lose on a game-winning field goal just for Carolina to be the first team to beat them. That's like deep down in my heart, I want this. This is all I'm asking for Thanksgiving this year.
Okay, I mean, it could happen. I mean, it's the NFL, 100%. Man. It is the NFL. Now, before we get into that game, Bills and the Chiefs, let's just talk about last night's performance by the Eagles over the Commanders on Thursday Night Football. You know, they didn't play great, especially in that first half, but man, Saquon Barkley making all the difference for Philadelphia. He's been incredible for them. Jalen Hurts is still not what he was a couple of years ago, but he played a good game last night overall, and the Eagles are finding ways to win. I know people aren't in love with Nick Sirianni, and if you're not an Eagles fan, he can be very unlikable. I get it, but they're 8-2. They took control of the division last night. Cole, what did you make of the Eagles win over Washington?
It's one of those things where Jalen Hurts, you're going to have to just expect a bad quarter at one point throughout the games because that's what it's been so far. It was a bad first half against Dallas last week. It was a bad first half against Washington this week. But when you get him rolling, when you take the pressure off of him by finally establishing a run game with Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, is living up to that contract and probably is going to get another massive contract in a few years because if he is en route to becoming a Hall of Fame running back with Philadelphia as the backbone of this team, it opens up pathways for you to not just have to trust your quarterback to be your savior and solution. And then you can attack on those certain plays, like the big pass down the field to Dallas Goedert. You want that once a game, and you capitalize on that because it sets up the rushing attack for Saquon Barkley once you get inside the red zone. You also are able to see the ability of the offensive line hold, I think, a great multitude. The thing that's really important is that Landon Dickerson left part of the game. When you still are able to run the football efficiently, that shows that the consistency of your offensive line is second to none. And ultimately, when you're going down into the postseason, months of January, February, early on in the cold, frigid weather, offensive line play is going to make or break you. That is what is going to be the backbone of this team. And I feel like that's what you have with a team like Philadelphia. Their secondary is playing a lot better at this point. You're seeing Reed Blankenship step on up. Cooper DeJean is cornerback one, and he's doing a phenomenal job at playing that role. Quinyon Mitchell has been playing extremely well. CJ Gardner-Johnson plays extremely well in the nickel spot. And then I think that also you have to throw into the fact that this is still a Washington Commanders team that probably wasn't tested to a certain degree up to this point. It was in Philadelphia. It was on a primetime standalone game. It was against a stellar defensive front. And for my money, Jaden Daniels needed to kind of have this learning lesson to get better, what he can improve upon. And I thought that was a big difference in this game. That this was played at FedEx Field, or whatever Washington calls itself now these days. Maybe this would have been a 4-quarter battle coming down to the wire where you get a Zane Gonzalez game-winning field goal, but it was played in Philadelphia. You're going to have to face those type of environments. That's what made me lean in favor of Philly winning this game. And ultimately, they have a second punch that in the third quarter, if it wakes up and chooses violence, they're going to come away with the win at the end of the day.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like, it's about winning, and they find ways to win. And I know people don't love Sirianni, but this is the third year in a row he's gotten that team off to a great start. Like, he's got the highest winning percentage in Eagles history among any of their coaches. Like, the guy wins a lot of games there. He does.
What's going to happen if he wins the Super Bowl? Is everyone just going to start loving him again because of that's probably the point? Because of, like, I get it. He's a dork. He screams at fans. He shaves his head. He doesn't know how to get along with the quarterback. But at the end of the day, it's Philadelphia. You want one thing: wins. That's it. What is he doing? Winning games outright, keeping you involved in games. And down the stretch, if they're going to go 13-4 or 12-5 and get the number 1 or number 2 seed, that's a recipe for disaster for other opponents. Playing in Philadelphia in the middle of January with that wind chill, yeah, best of luck to you. Hopefully you have the absolute best game plan possible because you're losing most times out of not.
And from a Washington standpoint, look, they're way ahead of schedule. They're going to make the playoffs in all likelihood. It's okay. 7-4, just fine.
The only thing that I really am annoyed at right now, and we haven't seen Marshawn Lattimore play in the secondary yet, so that's going to be a big deal moving forward. I wish that Adam Peters got a little bit more aggressive in adding in a secondary wide receiver, because really, who is the number 2 besides Terry McLaurin? It's Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz last night was the only security blanket for a young quarterback that needed to step on up and deliver in a performance to where he was going to be the X factor. They took Terry McLaurin out the entire game. He had 1 catch for 11 yards. I mean, when you don't have that secondary guy, that really hurts. I think that there's going to be an emphasis this offseason on adding in another wide receiver via the draft, via free agency. But this was a team that I thought could have pushed itself over the head just by having a secondary wide receiver take pressure off of Terry McLaurin. Because you talk about some of these teams, such as Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown is better because Jameson Williams opens up the passing attack downfield. The Baltimore Ravens have a much more stable passing attack because you add in Deontay Johnson to open up the field. The same thing goes for Cincinnati by having a T. Higgins and a Mike Gesicki out there for Jamar Chase. The more receivers possible, it takes away the element of having double teams. That's the only issue I have with a team like Washington right now. But they're 7-4, and a lot of people thought they'd be like 5-11 this year.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Cole Thompson, weekly spot on the Jake Asman Football Show. Let's get into the Week 11 schedule, then we'll give some picks. I want to start with a huge matchup, the rivalry of all rivalries, Steelers, Ravens, Pittsburgh, first divisional game all year. Very quirky schedule. I think they only play divisional games, the final 6 games of the year for them coming up here. So Steelers, you look at them, Cole, they're at home, yet the Ravens are 3-point favorites. We know how good and dynamic this Ravens offense can be. We also know Mike Tomlin as an underdog. That's where you want him. If you're going to pick the Steelers, how do you view this matchup here? Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, they have 2 other games that are out of the division, but one is against the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs, and the other one is against the favorites to win the NFC. I mean, the second favorites to win the NFC in Philadelphia. So that's their schedule down the stretch. It is a gauntlet of pure hell Thank God they were able to get to 7 wins now, because what's really going to matter is, can they get to 3-3 in the division against Cincinnati, against Cleveland, against Baltimore? I'm going to be intrigued to see, what does Russell Wilson look like against this front seven, because they know how to pass rush and they know how to get to the quarterback extremely fast and physical. More importantly, what are you going to see from the deep ball accuracy with Kyle Hamilton potentially being out in this game? So that opens up another pathway for you to be able to connect with the Mike Williams, to connect with the George Pickens, with a Pat Freiermuth, whether that be a Jalen Warren in the open backfield, Najee Harris. That's going to be a really big deal, because if I feel like that, once again, we haven't seen Russell Wilson be truly tested. And when he can get tested, I think that this is what's really going to make or break this team. And if they maybe eventually have to start considering putting in packages that are designed for Justin Fields. For Baltimore, what can you do if the rushing attack is not there? This is one of the best run defenses in the NFL right now. They're living up less than 95 yards per game. I think the other point that's really poignant is that you have a 1-2 combination in your backfield with Derrick Henry and with Lamar Jackson. What if they just spy Lamar the entire game and it becomes the Derrick Henry having a run for 2 yards, 3 yards, and then you pass, get a lot of 3 and outs? This is a matchup that is really intriguing to me. I don't want to touch the line, because even though I feel like that Baltimore is the more superior team, Pittsburgh's playing with a lot of gusto. And more importantly, they just showed you what it means to get a gritty win against a Washington squad last week. So this is going to be a 4-quarter battle, as it always is. This is the second best rivalry in all the NFL for my money. And I'll tell you what, these are two teams that do not like each other. They will let you know by the end of the first quarter that this is going to be a war to the finish line.
The other top game I wanted to get your thoughts on, and we already alluded to it, Cole, the Bills and the Chiefs. Now, in the regular season, Josh Allen has played well against the Chiefs, and his team has won. It's when they meet in the postseason that the Bills are 0-3 against Mahomes and the Chiefs. This is a huge matchup. Nice litmus test to see kind of where we're at. Kansas City's lucky to still be undefeated after what happened last week with a 35-yard field goal that was blocked. Your thoughts on this one? Buffalo being home, you like that? At the same time, Kansas City, I think, is going to get up for this game. Your thoughts on the breakdown here?
What's going to be really interesting is, will they have Amari Cooper back? Because that was the big difference of this matchup and what led to eventually a ton of other trades. Devontae Adams goes to New York, and then right after, Amari Cooper leaves Cleveland for Buffalo. And then right after that, Kansas City goes ahead and gets DeAndre Hopkins from Tennessee. So do you have a healthy wide receiver number 1 in Amari Cooper? And that's a big deal because of Dawson.
He thinks he's going to play. He said yesterday he's on track to play, he said.
Because Dalton Kincaid or Dawson, one of them, Dalton Kincaid, I think, is the one. He's not playing in this game. So that takes away your security blanket. Now that leaves you with Khalil Shakir and James Cook is probably your number 2 and number 3 options. So do you feel comfortable with having a route runner that can win at the point of attack, especially against a secondary that is not fully healthy right now? That's a big deal. I think the other thing that's really important is, how do you keep Patrick Mahomes living in third and uncomfortable? Because of last week, the Denver Broncos did a really good job of taking away the run game and then not allowing Patrick Mahomes to be able to maneuver outside the pocket. When he did, you saw those explosive plays downfield, whether it was to DeAndre Hopkins, whether it was to Travis Kelce. This is a very good front seven. This is not the elite front seven that we just saw, that we've seen in the past. This is a still very good front seven with AJ Epinesa, with good linebacking play, with Ed Oliver coming at the middle as a good bull rusher. But this is also a really solid offensive line. So this may end up being a shootout type of fashion, to where both of these teams find their way into the end zone 4, 5, 6 times, and it comes down to the last person holding the football. But there is something about Josh Allen playing against Kansas City in the regular season that kind of bodes extremely well in favor of Allen. Here's my problem. This isn't about the regular season. What we want to see from Josh Allen and what we want to see in this matchup, which has become one of the best rivalries in the postseason in recent memory, is, can he deliver when it is an elimination game? This is an elimination game. All this is that maybe at most this will play a factor in, does Buffalo get home field advantage for the playoffs? Or does Kansas City get home field advantage for the playoffs? So that's a big deal. But either way, can one of these teams establish the run? Can you force Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen to live in third and uncomfortable? And do we see the atmosphere of what is going to be Highmark Stadium play a major role in this game? It's the standalone CBS game for a reason. People want to tune in to seeing two of the best at their finest do what they do best.
Buffalo, a 2-point favorite in this game. Real quick, the other game I wanted to get your thoughts on, Cole, just because you're, of course, based in Houston. Texans, Cowboys, beginning of the year, there's a ton of hype for this game. It's on Monday Night Football this upcoming week. Houston has not looked good. Obviously, you've covered it up close. The fact they lost on Sunday night to the Lions, despite the Goff 5 picks, is wild. Your thoughts on the matchup here? Is it a get-right spot for the Texans playing a Cowboys team that, without Dak, last week, Cooper Rush, not good. Team got blown out by Philadelphia.
It has to be, but at the same time, I wonder, what is this offensive line going to do now with the fully healthy Micah Parsons? Parsons was the difference maker in that game for the first half. He had 2 sacks. He had 4 tackles for losses. He had 9 quarterback pressures, a forced fumble. He can do that against CJ Stroud because this offensive line is hit and miss every single drive. What's going to be really important, Jake, is do they have the explosive punch in the second half? Because Houston right now is going on 8 quarters and counting without scoring a touchdown in the second half of games. You have to go back to the matchup against the New England Patriots in Foxborough, the last time that Houston scored a touchdown in the final 30 minutes of action. So this is going to be a really big test, I think, for CJ Stroud. The other part that's really important is they're going to be without 2 of their best defensive players. Probably no Kamari Lassiter this week. He's in concussion protocol. So what does that do for the one-on-one matchups with CeeDee Lamb and then potentially Jonathan Mingo or whoever else is your wide receiver number 2, Jalen Tolbert, Jake Ferguson? And then you're also going to be without Will Anderson. He's still dealing with a high ankle injury suffered in the Jets game. Probably not going to be out there. He has been at practice. The one caveat, you are getting Nico Collins back. So having Nico Collins, who at the time led the NFL in receiving yards, led the NFL in yards after contact, led the NFL in yards per route per gain, also was number 2 in receptions when he went on the IR back in week 5. That'll benefit him, but there is no Stephon Diggs, so you still need Tank Dell to have a really strong performance. You still need John Mechie to continue to build off what he did last week. You need the run game to be there too. And I think the one blessing in disguise is that the area of weakness so far this year for Dallas has been their run defense. And you got a really good running back that is averaging over 101 yards per contest. Joe Mixon is a difference maker for this team. I think that's going to be the difference maker in this game out in AT&T Stadium.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of the program once again. The weekly picks against the spread. BetUS has all these games we've been discussing. You can place your wagers by using BetUS as your official sportsbook. Cole, I'm going to update the standings for the people here. You got off to such a great start this year. You were leading the competition. You've been struggling, man. Last week, 1-2. For me, a nice 2-1 week. Another winning week for your boy here. Overall in the season, I'm now 16-11. You are 13-14. So it's a big week for you here as you try and right the ship and you get back on track. I believe that is 1, 2, 3, 4 straight winning weeks for me. So I'm not saying I'm good at this, but I am saying I'm red hot right now.
Yeah, I was good at 2 at one point, and then I got cold.
Life as a sports bettor. But anyway, we're back with more picks. So Cole, I will do the honors. I will go first. Game number 1. I am picking against the team I support, the New York Jets. Do I think the Jets are going to win the game? I actually have a weird feeling they will. They're playing the Colts, but the Jets right now should not be favorites against anybody. If the Jets are a favorite, I'm picking against them. That's my new rule. Started doing that last week with the Cardinals. Ended up being right. Jets, 4 points. I know they're going back to Richardson with the Colts, but I don't know, man. I'm not feeling it. I think it's a close game one way or the other. I'll take the 4 points. So give me the Colts +4 as my first pick.
I don't feel confident in this pick only because of it's a West Coast team traveling out to the East Coast for an early kick. But I just feel like when you look at these rosters, even though they struggled on Monday night, the Los Angeles Rams are a fun roster. And they're a good, solid team defensively. What they have in Jared Verse, what they have in Braden Fisk, both have really stepped up. Jared Verse, for my money, is 100% the defensive player, rookie of the year. There's no questions asked. He has just been a phenomenal find in the pass rushing department as a replacement for Aaron Donald. The other part is that they have a healthy wide receiver core, Puka Nacua with Tutu Atwell with Cooper Kupp. And I don't trust right now anything from the New England Patriots. I don't. I think that, yes, they have a good run game. Yes, they were able to beat up on the Chicago Bears, but the Chicago Bears just fired their offensive coordinator. You're not firing anybody on this staff out in Los Angeles because of a game against New England because you're still in the playoff hunt. They have the better, more experienced quarterback. They have the more stable offensive line. I think that even though this is a West Coast team traveling out to the East Coast, sorry, I'm going to lean with it. Give me the 4.5 in favor of Los Angeles. So
you're taking the Rams on the road against the Pats. All right. Game number 2 for me, Cole. I'm taking the Chiefs. Taking the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes as an underdog. To me, it has to be an automatic play. That's the only reason why I'm doing. I don't know. I was on Buffalo all week. Then I'm like, you know what? Everyone's on Buffalo. Everyone's picking Buffalo. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to get Patrick Mahomes as an underdog. I'm doing it. Kansas City +2 at Buffalo, my second pick.
Everyone is picking Buffalo?
Everyone's on Buffalo this week.
You're damn right. It's a head-to-head matchup, Jake Asman. Head-to-head going on right now. Buffalo has the more superior offense right now. I do believe that they will run the football efficiently. I believe the element of Josh Allen's legs plays a massive role in this game. Getting back Amari Cooper, one of the more pristine route runners, and has slowly turned into one of the most underappreciated wide receivers of the 21st century. All he does is get 80-plus receptions per year for over 1,000 yards and finds a way into the end zone at least 8 to 9 times. That's going to be a difference maker. And keep a close eye out on Khalil Shakir as well. I think that his route running has become refined. He is going to have a bigger role with Dalton Kincaid out in this matchup. Sorry, Jake. Death taxes in Buffalo doing it in the regular season are things that you can bet on head-to-head, and I'm winning this one.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cole Thompson and I going at it head-to-head. All right, one last game for me, Cole. Mike Tomlin as an underdog. Taking the Steelers. Give me the +3. Steelers at home playing the Ravens. Ravens, as good as they look at times, they've also looked pretty poor with some of their performances, some of their losses this year. I like Pittsburgh here, getting points. I'll trust Tomlin as a dog. Tomlin as a dog at home. Give me the Steelers +3, my final selection.
Such a terrible line for me to take, but I'm a sicko, and I've loved watching this team play because they are the most underrated team in the AFC, Jake Asman. The Los Angeles Chargers look like a threat that can absolutely hold their own in a postseason matchup with the right game, whether it be against the Houston Texans, whether it be against a struggling Buffalo Bills team, whether it be against a team such as maybe the Denver Broncos, whoever it is, they can hold their own. If Pittsburgh was to somehow be the number 2 seed, I feel like that Los Angeles can do it. They have a good identity on offense. More importantly, we're not talking enough about how Justin Herbert, with little help at wide receiver, with little help in the interior offensive line, with a hit and miss rushing attack, with a Greg Roman-led offense, is still putting up positive, connective, consistent numbers that feel like should be talked about in a more prominent light. He is the most underappreciated quarterback of the 5 because we always mention Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and then we bring up CJ Stroud, then we bring up Jordan Love, then we bring up a Jalen Hurts, and then we bring up Matthew Stafford, and Dak Prescott's gotten into the mix. And it's time to actually just say Justin Herbert has never been the problem out in Los Angeles. He has never been the problem for the Chargers. He has been the one consistent thing that they have had in that organization. And thank God they have him as their starting quarterback. In the matchup in the 2020 head-to-head between him and Joe Burrow, he gets the last laugh. Give me the Chargers at home -1.
All right, Cole Thompson going with the Chargers. Here we go, Cole, on the Rams -4.5. Bills -2. Chargers -1, you said, right?
Yep, Chargers -1.
Chargers -1. And then for me, Colts +4 at the Jets. Kansas City, we're head-to-head, +2 at the Bills. Steelers +3 at home against the Ravens. Those are the Week 11 picks. Cole, you need a winning week, man. You got to get back on track.
Here's the deal. I look, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine because if I still have 7 more weeks after this, you still have 7 more weeks to mess this up. And I took all favorites this week. You took 2 underdogs. So really, I'm riding.
Woof, woof, baby. The dogs
I'm riding with the confidence. No. Because here's what happened. I took 3 underdogs 2 weeks ago. Do you remember that? And what happened in that game? I got screwed over by Jameis Winston. I got screwed over by Joe Flacco, and I got screwed over by the third team. I forget who it was. No, it was a Tampa, and I barely lost that one. So I went 0-3, and that's where the skid started. So you're taking 2 underdogs. This is where you potentially start to see your demise hit. And then I get back on top.
Cole, happy Hawaiian Shirt Friday.
Happy Hawaiian Friday.
Happy Football Friday. And good to see that you haven't been arrested for that mustache yet. I'm glad you're still going strong.
I'm not allowed near any public school within 150 yards, but I don't want to go there anyway, so it's okay. Kirsten understands. I can't go visit her at school right now.
He's Cole Thompson. My name is Jake Asman. This has been the Jake Asman Football Show. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. If you like our picks, place your bets at BetUS. If you want to fade our picks, place your bets over at BetUS. Thanks to them for being our presenting sponsor. He's Cole. I'm Jake. Enjoy your weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time on the Jake Asman Football Show.